for being here tonight. My name is Estrella Rix-Para, and I'm the admissions coordinator over at the Batten School. We are so excited to have you all tuning in tonight. The program tonight is intended to introduce you to the Batten School and prepare you for your course enrollment, which will occur a little later on during your summer orientation session. During those sessions, a member of our team will go into more detail about our school and program, so please do not feel like you need to memorize everything we say tonight. I promise there will be plenty of opportunities to hear it all again later on down the road. You can find out about Batten events from our calendar on the Batten webpage, which lists all of those summer information sessions and more. Other than the transfer sessions later this summer, those programs will all take place in Batten's building, Garrett Hall, which you can see on the slide right now, and it's also where I currently am, and we really do hope that we'll see you guys there. Tonight, I'll share just a few slides, and then we'll turn to a Q&A with a current Batten student, Wyatt, you can see right now. So feel free to add your questions at any time using the Q&A feature, and then we'll get to them in the latter part of the session. We also have a member of our admissions team right now moderating the chat and responding to questions as we go. So if one pops up after I say something, please feel free to put it there as well. So there are quite a few ways to study public policy at UVA, and students are often surprised just by how many paths there are. We like to say that at Batten, policy is really everywhere. You can study history, econ, computer science, data science, foreign language, English, pre-health, pre-law, really whatever you want to do, and still be prepared for an eventual career that grapples with public policy in some way. So as you think about what you might like to study at UVA, we like to point out just a few specialized policy majors in the College of Arts and Sciences, in addition to ours, that you can seek out more information about. These are majors to explore and talk over with your academic advisor or orientation leader, and to learn more about once you arrive on grounds this fall. You don't have to major in policy to eventually work in policy. It's not like being a doctor where you have to go to medical school in order to get there. You'll grapple with policy either implicitly or explicitly in whatever you go on to do, and majors such as Batten can give you the tools to help you succeed. One of the great things about UVA is that you really do have time to explore your academic interests. You can add on a minor, you can double major, design an interdisciplinary major, major in the Batten School, or whatever else you set your mind to. The combinations are really endless to explore in public policy and related other fields. In fact, you can virtually study anything at UVA as an undergraduate major that isn't Batten, and then could actually come to Batten for a master's in public policy as well. One of the joys that I found working here is seeing how students are really able to combine their interests and passions in a really unique way. So, why Batten? Well, we all know that all of the options can feel really overwhelming. The good news is that you don't have to decide today, and you don't really have to decide right now. UVA is structured to allow you to follow your interests and your passions before you actually declare your major. So Batten is an upper school at UVA, which means that students typically joined one of our programs in either their third or fourth year. This is the general model at UVA, where you explore during your first 2 years while completing your general education requirements, and then most majors are something you either apply to or you declare when you're a second year. At Batten, our programs, except for one, are application-based and they are competitive, but they focus on leadership, policy, and equipping you with skills to be impactful and to make lasting change. Batten really does want to train and educate the next generation of policy and citizen leaders to act on behalf of the common good. We do this through a really unique focus on both public policy and leadership. This means that you'll get in-class knowledge and access to cutting-edge research about policy information. You'll build skills in data analysis, but will also help you to cultivate a leadership portfolio that includes how to analyze group behavior, how to negotiate, how to navigate conflict, solve problems, and really be an effective communicator and critical thinker. This is a super practical degree, and that leads to a wide variety of professional outcomes. What sets Batten apart, though, is our focus on implementation and on building real-world skills on applied knowledge. We are a pre-professional school, so we place a lot of emphasis on helping you build skills to get employed, but the hard and soft skills take our students extremely far in the workforce. We're also the only Masters of Public Policy program in the whole country with an explicit emphasis on leadership within our curriculum, and I really do think that that sets us and our students apart. So, with so many options available to you, we like to advise students that it can be helpful to actually work backwards in terms of looking at someone in a field or career that you want to enter and then kind of figuring out the steps that they took to get there. To help demonstrate where Batten graduates end up, we have some examples of careers that our alumni have entered up on the screen. As you can see, our Batten graduates don't only go on to work in Capitol Hill, though many of them do. Roughly 50% of the graduates of our graduate program, the Masters of Public Policy, end up in government roles, since that program is a bit more focused, but our BA employment outcomes are much more diverse, with more grads working across sectors and going on to graduate school. Many of our undergraduates go into the private sector, private or government consulting, law school. We also had grads go on to do Teach for America. One won a Fulbright last year. Some go to culinary school, or others win presidential management fellowships. We even had one alumni go on to work in the MLB for data analysis. So like we said before, there are really a lot of things that you can do with this degree and few things that you can't do. Now, diving a little bit into the actual programs that we offer, and just a reminder before we get into the bit more weedy technical details, there will be lots more opportunities to learn about this throughout the summer and the fall. But we have 4 programs open to undergraduates at UVA. These 2 on the screen are the programs where you'll actually earn a degree from the Batten School. Our graduate path is a Master's of Public Policy. The accelerated MPP is for students receiving an undergraduate degree outside of Batten. So you major in something else, and then you add 1 year to your time at UVA to graduate with an MPP as well. Students typically apply for this as a 3rd year, but if you come in with a lot of credits, you can pursue this program on an expedited timeline. That sounds like that might be you and something you're interested in. We definitely recommend you come and chat with a member of our admissions team this fall so we can kind of help you course plan and see if that might work out. This is a really heavy quantitative program, so because with that, we want to make sure that you're able to use data to advance your positions. This is a really unique opportunity, though, because you're in classes with both accelerated MPP students, but also traditional MPP students who receive their undergraduate degrees from a variety of both international and domestic institutions, and then are coming here to pursue their MPP. The key thing to note about the Excel program is it is a professional degree. It's going to be rigorous, but you'll get a deep dive into policy and data analysis. It's really for students who want to directly influence the policy sphere, and it means leaving UVA with both an undergraduate and a graduate degree, which is pretty cool. Moving on, Batten has 1 undergraduate major. If the Excel is an immersive deep dive into policy, then the BA can be considered a more generalist curriculum and interdisciplinary look at policy, more from the perspective of effective engagement within the world. It includes coursework in policy and leadership, economic analysis, multidisciplinary context, and special topics or policy electives, where you can take and study the particular policy that's of interest to you. And that can really be anything. It can be education policy, health policy, national defense and security, effective legislating, interdisciplinary development. Again, lots of areas of policy that you can kind of learn about. With this program, you end up being a good consumer of information, and you'll have public policy knowledge with that as well. It also just gives you the tools for robust participation in public life. Now, if you end up majoring in something else at UVA, we also have 2 minors available to you, the Public Policy and Leadership minor or the Social Entrepreneurship minor. The Public Policy and Leadership minor is only 18 credits, and it's a really great way to supplement your primary major in another school with policy and leadership. This also means that your classes are going to be filled with a wide range of perspectives since you have students of all majors in them. The minor is a broader look at issues in the policy realm with the goal of making you fluent in the language of policy and the way that it intersects with your chosen interests and fields of study. The Social Entrepreneurship minor is only 15 credits, and this is our 1 straight track Batten. So that means that everybody applies to it is going to be admitted, unlike with our other programs. The Social Entrepreneurship minor is also a pan-university program that allows you to take electives across many different schools at UVA. It's a part of the larger entrepreneurship minor that's housed over at McIntyre too. Our social track is for students interested in impact investing, entrepreneurial approaches to global development, and equity-based leadership. In classes, you'll use design thinking to create the most innovative solutions to real-world problems. Now, looking towards the fall, here's a little bit about classes that you might want to consider enrolling in. The prerequisites on the screen are the only classes that you must take prior to enrolling at Batten. And the good news is that most of these classes are also prereqs for a lot of other majors at UVA, so the credits kind of count no matter where you end up. These prereqs can be taken all the way up to the semester before you begin at Batten, so if you can enroll in the fall, no worries at all, you are still on track, we promise. Here are the requirements. For the BA and minor, you have to earn a C or higher in microeconomics and social psychology. LPPL is Batten's specific version of social psychology called Foundations of Behavioral Science, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that is later. And Psych 2600 is a college version of that class, and you can take either for the prerequisite. For the BA, you also have to take Intro to Public Policy, and we found that that tends to be a really telling class for if students might enjoy pursuing a Batten BA. It's also a minor requirement, so if you take it and then you end up not applying to the BA, you've already had a minor class complete, which means you'd only have 50 more credits left in the minor. For the SE minor, you have to enroll in Entrepreneurship 1010, which is a startup to gain access to the minor track, but you can take that while in the minor itself. Micro and a calc-based math course are required for the accelerated MPP program, which should be a signal to you that it is a quantitative degree. It's possible to use AP credits to fulfill these requirements, but especially for the accelerated MPP, we'd like to see you take some type of math course at UVA to demonstrate proficiency and readiness for graduate level quant work. So if you intend to use AP Calc, consider the courses up on the bottom right corner screen as well. Outside of the prereqs, my general advice for your first few semesters at UVA is to just kind of focus on fulfilling your general education curriculum and to explore what sounds exciting to you. You never really know what's going to click for you until you give it a try, so I absolutely encourage you to take a wide range of courses. Batten's general education curriculum is the same as a college's, so you should continue to make progress towards fulfilling those requirements. In particular, though, it is wise to try and complete your foreign language requirements before coming to Batten, because once you are a part of the Batten School, rather than the College of Arts and Sciences, it becomes a little bit more difficult to enroll in those upper level language courses. If possible, you should complete the Batten prerequisites prior to the semester that you apply for admissions into Batten, just so the admissions committee can see that grade on your transcript when you apply, which can be really helpful for us. Earlier, we also mentioned AP credit and the Excel program. Again, we'd love to see a collegiate level stat course on your transcript. And finally, another thing you can do is consider taking one of the Batten elective courses that you'll see up on the next slide. You shouldn't take courses to help your application because we don't consider that when evaluating apps. It's more for you to explore topics that are interesting to you and for you to kind of see what our coursework is and if it's something you might enjoy, which could be a good fit for you. You also might have a more complex academic goal. If you're committed to Batten and you already know you want to study abroad or double major, or double minor, you might consider taking more Batten courses to clear up space in your final 2 years so you can also achieve those academic goals. But you do want to be mindful that the college does have certain in-college credit requirements depending on if you major inside or outside the college. But again, our team and your advisors will be there along the way to help support you and make sure you're on track for your academic plans. So here are some of the Batten courses being offered this fall. As a quick reminder, there's not necessarily a competitive advantage to taking extra Batten coursework from an evaluation standpoint, but it is helpful for us to see your performance in some Batten coursework if your prereqs are still in progress at the point of application. Most importantly, though, when taking any of these classes, is when doing it, you'll get a sense of whether our programs are right for you. And strategically, you'll also clear some space in either your third or fourth year. A couple of notes on these classes. LPPL 2100 is taught by Professor Tim Davis, who is an expert on resilience, group dynamics, and leadership development. While it doesn't fulfill a curricular requirement because it has to be over a 3000 level to do that, it is a great way to build leadership and critical skills, and it helps you just transition into college life. It's a great way to kind of sample our Batten leadership curriculum. LPPL 2600 is the course that fulfills a social psychology prerequisite, and it's Batten's flavor of social psych. It's how social influence, perception, and interaction, essentially interpersonal relationships, affect individual and group behavior. LPPP 2200, Intro to Public Policy, is a prereq for the major and a part of the minor curriculum. You learn about policy formation and how to write a policy memo. Unfortunately, it is full for this fall, but most students take it as a second year, so again, not behind at all. Entrepreneurship 1010 is our startup class, and this is the class that opens up the application for the SE minor. Like I said before, all of these courses are currently open for the fall other than Introduction to Public Policy. And on our Batten website, we also have a Batten blog where you're able to read a little bit more about these courses as well. So on the screen now is a list of some of the Batten special topic courses or our elective courses where you can really dive down into a specific area of policy. If you want to know any more about the courses up on the screen, though, just feel free to put that in the chat or in the Q&A and we can send a description your way. The first course is a core entrepreneurial class and can also be considered an elective for our BA and public policy minor. But on this list, you'll also see courses in national security, police community relations, education policy. The courses change semester by semester, so if there's one you're interested in, you might consider taking it, but we also offer coursework in humanitarian aid, global development, public health, nonprofit management, international law and policy, really all types of policy-related fields. And our professors are leading experts in their fields as well, so it's always really interesting to hear what electives they dream up. And like I said, I'm glad to provide a description for any of those courses if anybody's interested in the Q&A. Okay, now to take a quick breather, because that was a lot of information. So I hope you've stuck with us throughout it this far. And again, you'll have plenty of opportunities to hear it over the summer and again in the fall once we resume our regular admissions programming. Remember to check your orientation schedule for Batten information sessions this summer, as well as our Wahoo Welcome, which will be on Wednesday, August 28th at 5 p.m. in Garrett Hall. And that'll be a great chance just to meet and chat with current Batten students. The very best way, though, to stay plugged in during the academic year is to use that QR code on the screen just to fill out a really quick inquiry form, which will enter your information into our system and subscribe you for our weekly newsletter. This newsletter will contain information about events, helpful tips, links to our blog where we post lots of content and resources. It'll detail application deadlines, and it really is a wealth of that information. This fall, we'll also host Friday open walk-in office hours where you'll be able to speak with a member of the admissions team or a Batten ambassador like Wyatt. And those are just current Batten students who can tell you more about their experiences in our program. We also will have daily virtual and in-person appointments with members of our admissions team during the academic year. We have monthly information sessions. We'll host special events like Frankapalooza, which is a fun outdoor festival, social events, weekly Batten hours, where leading policy experts actually come to the Great Hall and talk about the work that they're doing. We'll have application deadline information, and we'll have workshops when those deadlines get closer. So lots and lots of events that you'll hear about through our newsletter or on our event schedule on the website. My email's up on the screen as well, so please feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can also use the general Batten admissions email you see at the bottom of the slide as well. Now, that was a lot of talking to me, so I'm going to hand it over to Wyatt to introduce himself and we'll get started. After he does his introduction, I'm going to take the screen down, so if you haven't already filled out the QR code, this would be a great time to do it. Wyatt, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Wyatt Carter. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm one of the Batten ambassadors. Love being in Batten. I think it's a super great program. You learn so much. Yeah, love it. Excited to talk about it. Yeah, happy for some questions.
Awesome. So just to get the question started before we go to the Q&A in the chat, Wyatt, just to kind of get things started, how would you define policy? Big question, I know. And why is it important, though, to study it in the Batten BA?
I think broadly, I would define policy as studying the systems that form the way that our world works. And I think it's important to study policy because, anybody can look at a situation and say, this is an issue, but studying a policy gives you the tools to help sort of fix those problems, study those problems, things like that. And I think if you're interested in doing those kind of things in your career, then Batten's definitely, it definitely could be a path for you.
That's awesome. And also, if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to start throwing those in the chat or the Q&A, and we can answer those as well. But since we are talking to a group of incoming first years, what advice do you have for someone planning to explore either different majors or similar sounding majors at UVA? Like, what were you thinking when you were in their shoes?
Wow. Well, thinking back to first year, take me back. It feels like 7 years ago. Yeah. My number one thing is to try everything, and you guys are going to hear that a lot, but it's definitely true. If you have even a vague interest in a topic or a club or are interested in starting your own club, do it. Everything is a yes. You're going to have so much time, especially in your first year, on your hands to explore different groups of people, explore different kinds of communities and things like that. So explore every kind of way you can do that. And that means like career fairs, talk to students, specifically to Batten, talk to Batten students, go to Garrett Hall, go to Batten Hour, which we hold on Monday, where we get to talk to policy professionals from the world every single Monday, which is crazy. Yeah, explore everything, do everything you can. And you're going to find not everything you're going to like, obviously, but it's a lot easier to help build out what you think the future is going to be when you have an understanding of what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, things like that.
I think that perspective too, that it's okay to not like everything you do is also so important, because it's totally okay to just redirect your focus and try a new club or try out a new major pre-req and just kind of see where that takes you. How do you get involved though in finding extracurriculars on grounds? Like, what's the best way to do that? Are there any policy-based ones? Which ones are you involved in?
Definitely a little biased, but I would say attend the career fair for sure, or also, I mean, the club fair. Sorry. Um, Literally, almost every CIO on grounds comes to the club fair to promote their club, talk about their mission, talk about the organization. Go to that, especially as a first year. You guys are the main people that you're trying to recruit, and you want to find the clubs, organizations, jobs, things like that that you're going to be genuinely invested in, so that you can invest time in them from the beginning. I know a lot of people who were sort of scared to try new things, and they're regretting it now that they're third years and fourth years because wow, they found this community finally, but it could have been like this the whole time. That's my number one thing. Try everything. Go to club fairs. Talk to students is a huge thing. For Batten specifically, we offer like office hours. You can talk to an ambassador every Friday from 2 to 4. Other programs obviously do similar stuff. Go to them. Go to office hours and talk to professors about, oh, I'm really interested in this topic. Do you know any other organizations that do similar stuff? Talk to career center people as well. They can be super helpful, not just for career stuff. They can give you pointers on things that are outside of that, social things, organizations, events. I've had career center people that I have a relationship with come to me and say, oh, you're interested in this? I heard about this thing, and I think you'd be really great for it. I think you'd be super interested in this speaker that's coming to grounds. Like, things like that are huge.
And why I love that you mentioned community, because I feel like that's one of those things that, especially when you're in the college search process, even though obviously you guys aren't there anymore, that you kind of just keep hearing. But how would you kind of explain the Batten community?
I think so. The nice thing about Batten is that it's not a massive major. It's kind of a smaller community, but the benefit of that is during the 2 years that you guys are in Batten, if you end up doing the BA, 1 year for the MPP, obviously, you do get extremely close with a small group of people because you're taking a lot of your classes together. You're in a lot of the same extracurriculars. When there are Batten events, you see people, you get to talk, you get the inside jokes. And I think it feels really good going into my fourth year. I'm a rising fourth year, so I've already done 1 year of Batten. It feels really good going into my fourth year, into the general uncertainty of whatever's going to happen after graduation, that I have a strong network, I have a strong relationship and bonds with these people, and I'm very much looking forward to coming back to grounds. And a large part of that has to do with the Batten community.
Okay, we don't want to think about you graduating yet. You still have a full year, so let's not.
Neither do I. Neither do I.
Sure you don't. We did have somebody ask in the chat, what is the application process like to get into Batten? Why do you want to talk a little bit about what you experienced applying to Batten? We
Sure.
also have our ambassadors help give like application feedback around that time. So Wyatt, using all of that wisdom, how would you kind of describe that process?
Sure. I think, generally I'm a worrier. And I think when I was applying to Batten, I was extremely worried and scared because any application, you're like, I want to do my best and put my best foot forward. Looking back, I would say a lot of that stress was probably overblown. There is no organization that you're going to be involved in that's going to guarantee you getting into Batten. There is no GPA cutoff. Volunteering some personal information, my GPA was definitely below the average for Batten students, but it's a holistic review. They're not just looking at one element of your application. They're looking at, yes, what work were you involved in? Yes, how's your academic performance? How are you doing in Batten classes? What also there's spaces in your application to offer up, I had this thing going on in my life and that really affected my ability to do well in school or engage with the general UVA community. And yeah, from my understanding, are there still 2 essays?
So it depends on the program. I'm actually going to put a link where you can read more about the different applications. So if you're interested in one of them, you can kind of like read there, just because they do vary a little bit by the BA, the minor, and all of that. There's free required essays though for the BA, which I think is what you're referring to specifically. And those are actually on our website too. So they might change a little year by year, but you can kind of get a preview of what that application question might look like.
Yeah. And to continue, I think the best strategy with those essays, is to put your best foot forward, obviously. Try and be as genuine as possible. Don't say something because you think like, oh, they're going to love this at the policy school. No, that's not what we're looking for. They're looking for you to say, why you're genuinely interested in this topic, why you think this community would be right for you, and what you feel like you can bring to the general Batten community. And don't stress. Don't. Life is too short to worry. And as we've already discussed, if you end up not deciding against Batten or deciding to do something else, there's so many ways to get into policy or similar fields. Everything is going to work out. At the end of the day, you've already won the lottery by being accepted into UVA, so you can hang your head on that and feel super, super good.
That's a really good perspective to have. I think with Batten too, they have a lot of events that are also just like open to the public, like those Batten hours. So again, if you decide maybe you don't want to major in public policy and leadership, you can also then still get involved by going to those. There are also though other components to the application. So again, we can talk about those more in depth if people have questions. It does vary by the programs, but we also normally ask for a resume for the Batten BA. We also ask for letters of recommendation, et cetera. And what we're looking for in that, like Wyatt kind of touched on, is we don't want to necessarily see somebody who's been involved in a million policy organizations. We really just want to see what your professional vision is, what your focus in, and what you kind of want to bring to Batten. So people can show leadership in all types of ways. It can be working at an ice cream shop and having to deal with challenging customers. It can be being a club president and all sorts of things. So there, like Wyatt said, there really isn't a one size fit all in order to apply or to be accepted. We really just are looking for who you are as a person and want to learn about that more from both your essays, those letters of resume, and all sorts of things like that. And also those prerequisites, which is why taking those a little earlier than when you're applying can be really helpful for us on the admissions committee. Let's see. Okay, somebody else asked, is it easy or recommended to double major while in the Batten school? Wyatt, do you want to take that? I can also take that.
Sure, I can dig it. I am not a double major. I'm majoring in public policy and leadership in the Batten School, and I'm minoring in German. I would say it's super feasible and super easy to double major when you're in Batten, but it's important to have a plan. If you understand that, okay, this is what I want to double major in, and hopefully, by the time you're planning a Batten, you have an idea. Time management is everything. Making sure that you're meeting the requirements you are not only for Batten but also for your other major. Staying consistent with both, and definitely don't overload yourself. Like I know some people that had decided to do double majors because they thought it would look good, and now they're heading into their fourth year and they're like, oh, I'm not sure I want to do this. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons because you genuinely want to and you feel like it would, help you in your future and your career and things like that, help you fulfill your goals moving forward. But to answer your question, yes, super feasible. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know, like off the top of my head, I can name you at least 20, 30 people I know that got major.
Yeah, and if you do have that more complex academic plan, we definitely recommend that you meet with a member of our admissions team just so we can kind of help you plan that out. Certain Batten courses, especially with the BA, are only offered either in the fall or the spring. So let's say you want to study abroad, you just kind of have to stack those courses on another semester. So we like to just kind of explain that to students. If you do join the Batten community, you also have access as a BA or accelerated students to an academic services team and a career services team. So the academics team can also kind of help you with that course planning if you are doing a more complex major or minor, going and studying abroad, all sorts of things like that. Okay, somebody asked if we could provide some real life examples of how does the school engage with local, national, or global communities to impact real world public policy. Right?
Sure. That's great. You can follow me up if you want to. But as an example of how we engage with the local community, so one thing that we do that's really special is through Batten, we plan Batten Builds, which is kind of our community day of service. So the entire school comes out, spends about a day, I would say, about a work day, out in the community, doing various different like missions. So some people are working outside at Morven. Some people are working in a food shelter, helping to give out food for unhoused people. There's a wide berth of things that happen on that day specifically. And moving forward, we're attempting to offer monthly community service events that are on a smaller scale so that people can get involved in various different missions and things like that. I think with Batten has a lot of connections in that world. And if you end up meeting with your advisors, the academic team, the career team that's specifically for Batten students, and you make it clear to them that's something you're interested in, they can give you so many pointers in the right direction. They're just, it's ridiculous the amount of connections that Batten can give you and the amount of directions that you can kind of take with it.
That's a great answer. Batten also has a ton of research centers too. So a lot of those are working and really doing public policy work out in the real world. Our National Security Research Center works with the department, the DoD. The Center for Effective Lawmaking will help train lawmakers to be more effective. They actually just had a conference this past weekend where they were working on kind of compiling this big like database to measure the effectiveness for state legislators in the US. And they had a big presentation and all of that. I'm going to share the link to Batten News as well, where you can kind of see the work that professors are doing, the type of research and like policy centers work that they're doing. And those are really great ways to engage in hands-on policy work that affects the real world. Let's see. Wyatt, given the opportunities for network that you kind of mentioned, how has Batten been able to help with getting internship, and what are the opportunities to do policy-related internships in the Charlottesville area?
So many. In the Charlotte, knowing where you want to work or where you want to do your internship is definitely a huge part. There's tons of resources in the Charlottesville area. In my personal experience, I'm currently doing an internship with the mayor of Richmond's office that I know that I would not have been able or not have been prepared for, and also able to sort of network my way into if it wasn't for the connection that I have at Batten. And in terms of the work that I'm actually doing in my internship, it's almost one-to-one with the kind of stuff we do in class. Like, I had my boss is a legislative analyst, and I had him come to me and say, hey, we're working on providing the next cohort of Richmond's guaranteed income program. We want this to be your main focus. And it's like, I need a memo on this. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting flashbacks to all of our requirements right now. So, writing memos, doing data analysis, being able to look at a problem, do research, understand the scope of an issue, best practices for implementation going forward. These are all the kind of things that you're going to be doing in a Batten class, and they're all the kind of things that you're going to be doing in the real policy world, if that helps to answer the question.
That's awesome. I'm also really glad to hear that the skills that you're learning in Batten are applicable to the real world. As a part of the accelerated MPP curriculum, students are also required to do an internship in that. So we have all of our MPP students doing internships, and the Career Service is a great resource in helping you find something that you might be interested in. And so is our Batten alumni. Wyatt, you kind of mentioned that. What has it been like interacting with alumni from the Batten School?
It's been really great. I think, more than anything, like, personally in my office, we have 2 Batten alums. Super hardworking, super nice. It's awesome to be able to, the chief of staff for the mayor is actually a Batten alumni. And what she'd explained to me, what was so special about Batten is that, when she sees an application from someone and it says Batten on it, she knows that there are certain expectations that she can have of that person. And she can know 100% that they're going to clear and exceed that bar. They know they're going to be competent in terms of going through legislative papers and being like, okay, where's the important part here? And where's the, going through ordinances, writing ordinances, helping to gather information, analyze data, clean data, things like that. Yeah, Batten really gives you that sort of gold star in terms of knowing exactly, employers and other people knowing exactly what you're going to do and what you're able to do, which I think has been super helpful.
It's funny you say that you're working with the Batten alumni too, because one of our other lead ambassadors who just graduated, which we're very sad about, she actually heard about Batten from an alumni. So she was out in the real world, and they're the one that actually recommended the accelerated MPP program to her. So even though we are a smaller school, the network is still really wide. Somebody asked about opportunities during the year on grounds to network with Batten alumni, and our career services team does a really great job of doing that. We have lots of coffee chats with people and recruiters, both alumni and just from consulting firms. They'll come actually to Garrett Hall, so you'll get to meet them here. You'll see people walking around in suits. And, I know coffee chat's happening today. They also do something called Policy at the PAV, where they'll bring back alumni for like the weekend, and they'll get to meet with students in similar interests. What other opportunities have you maybe had to engage with alumni?
I think those have been huge. I just, on those sort of events, I've gone to them like, you sort of go to them on a whim and you're like, I don't know anything about this thing, but I'm going to go, whatever. And you go and you have really in-depth conversations, and you, one, learn to think about policy in ways that you never would if you weren't dealing with somebody who does it every single day. Two, you pick up a lot of the language that people in the field use. There's a lot of important phrases, important words that You're going to need to understand concepts that you're going to need to get if you want to be in this field. And I think they're super helpful for that. Outside of that, they can definitely give you pointers in terms of what does your future like? What is, what do you want to do? Yeah. And I think that's super duper helpful.
Yeah. I'm always surprised when I'm talking about an alumni, the ways in which they're actually able to use all that they've learned and then go out into the real world and do it. Something else our career services will do as well is they'll actually host trips to DC to network on Capitol Hill. So that's another really cool experience where you don't have to worry about driving up there. We take like a big bus up to DC and you'll actually get to see Batten alumni working, and it's a very cool hands-on experience as well. Okay, don't see any more questions in the chat. So if anyone has any more, please feel free to send those our way. A little bit lighter and easier, Wyatt, what has been your favorite class or professor that you've taken?
Ooh, that's tough. I hope they're not listening to this. I'm not going to see the recording
It
of
is
them.
recorded, so.
No. Okay. I would say my favorite class so far has been Public Policy Challenges of the 21st Century. It's a class that is part of the BA curriculum in your third year spring. I really enjoy it because the entire class is structured around, similar to Batten, our policy professionals from around Virginia and around the world, really, who come in every single week and do a totally new lecture on a totally new topic. And you guys can take this before you're in the BA, or you get into the BA, so you can take it as a first year, second year, and I think it's super helpful.
It's also a minor requirement. So
also a minor requirement, so kind of checking boxes off. I think what I love about that is you get to see and hear from so many diverse perspectives on so many issues. And not only do they get to talk at you, you get to ask them questions. So if you hear somebody, I've seen people get into arguments with professors and challenges, and I'm like, this is crazy. I don't know how you have the confidence to do this, but you can. And I think that's really great. The amount that I've learned in such a short amount of time in that class about the, real world 21st century, what is it like working in your field in policy is it's insane, and it's really hard to fathom. And I loved it every second of it.
that's awesome. And Wyatt, something else that Batten does to kind of prepare students to potentially enter Batten is Bridge to Batten, which you're actually pretty heavily involved in. Do you want to maybe talk to students about what that is, especially since it's something that might be on their horizon as first years?
Sure. Bridge to Batten is a program where the entire focus of the program is on helping limited income or first generation students make their matriculation into college a lot more smoother. A lot of it is based on research that's been conducted that basically suggests that when limited income or first gen students come to an elite college like the University of Virginia, there's a lot of culture shock in terms of how do I operate in this space? How do I network? How do I, do LinkedIn? How do I write cover letters? Things like that. And also, socially, it can be kind of alienating to be maybe the only person of your background or the only person in your hall that has a certain background. And I think Bridge to Batten does, and it also is for students, obviously, who are extremely interested in policy, know that this might be something they're interested in the future. How can we best prepare them for that? So it's, it's career development things like LinkedIn, cover letters, resume, things like that. And there also is a resource team that's going to help you for 2 years after the course has been committed. It's a 1-credit course, extremely low stakes. I think it's extremely fun, and you get to have a lot of interesting conversations with people with similar backgrounds to you who aren't often put in the same room together, which I think is great. And as a TA for Bridge to Batten, our office hours are lunch. Guys, I got the company card. Guys, all I need is for you guys to come, and we get to have free lunch. We get to talk about our experiences. I can impart some information on you. I think it's great, and I think it's really fulfilling being able to serve as that outlet for people, and also free lunch. Guys, come on.
What more could you want? Something else, which you might have mentioned and I might have just missed, but with Bridge to Batten 2, for students that do participate in that, you also get priority placement for Intro to Public Policy, which is one of those prereqs. So knowing you have a safe seat in that can also be really nice, and thinking about course planning and all of that. Somebody also asked more about the DC trip and how that kind of works. In terms of that program, it is capped since we are busing students up there, so you can't take everybody, but anyone in the BA, Excel, post-grad MPP is invited to go on that. And it's very much so just kind of like first come, first serve for those seats. But our career services team does a really good job of like meeting demand for those that. So if there ever are times when maybe it gets full really quickly, that'll definitely encourage them to hopefully plan another one pretty soon. Okay. Wyatt, somebody asked, how does a program address global policy challenges and prepare students to work in an international context?
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of course offerings that are focused on international policy, whether that be international aid policy, international relations, national security. I don't think Batten isn't just focused on like Virginia or the America or things like that. I think it's very clear that the perspective of our coursework is, the world is a big place and policy affects people across the planet. And, what's going on in America is not, although it's like right in front of our face, it's not the most important thing in the world. It's not the exclusive thing that's going on in the world. And I think that's really great. So there's a lot of opportunities to engage with the international community, to learn from the international community when they come to Batten Hour, when they come and do coffee chats, policy at the PAV, things like that. I think it's a lot of it is on you though, to kind of seek out those resources, make yourself available, make time, and to be very intentional and conscious about the kind of future you want to create for yourself, the kind of people you want to meet, things like that.
We also will have graduates in that MPP program or graduates of the BA go on to work in the State Department and kind of focus on foreign service. That's a really popular area. They'll also work in NGOs, which are kind of focused more on international development and humanitarian aid at the World Bank, all sorts of things like that. I think something else just really cool about being in Batten is you then have access to this huge resource of professors who are just so brilliant and knowledgeable in their field. And a really big benefit is you're able to just kind of go to their office hours, even if you're not necessarily taking a class with them, and pick their brain. So you're just surrounded by people who have tons of policy experience and really do want to help you succeed and learn. So I think that's a really great way. Also something for students interested in the accelerated MPP. With that program, you have 15 elective credits, or you have elective credits in that, and you're kind of able to specialize that to your area of policy interest. So if you do have a more international lens, you're able to really specialize doing those electives. You can also take a few of those classes outside of Batten at another school on grounds. It can even be the law school, as long as it's somewhat related to policy and leadership in some way. So again, another way that you can kind of get that more global perspective as well. Okay, somebody asked, how does the course material you take in Batten differ from more traditional classes in politics, foreign affairs, and economic majors? Why, you have some insight into that?
I would say that it's a lot more tangible and like real world focused. Like Estrella had mentioned, Batten is all about preparing you for what you're actually going to be doing in your career. And I think a lot of the reasons, or one suggestion that I would give to people who are filling out similar policy majors is to look at the requirements. One of the main reasons that I ended up applying to Batten was because I knew I was more so interested in tangible stuff. So like what's going on in policy today, right now? What major is going to prepare me for that? And I think what I found in other majors, not to be a hater, but what I found in other majors is that it was more focused in the theoretical. And I knew that I was more interested in hands-on stuff. So if that answers the question.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think a lot of the stuff that you're learning in Batten are those hard and soft skills to really implement these things. And you're doing projects that are really training you that are going to be great when you're entering to the real world. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't look like there's any more questions in the chat. So I'll give a last call for that. But Wyatt, just while we're waiting to see if any more come in, is kind of a final, there we go. Is a kind of a final question. What advice would you maybe give to students if you, or actually would you give to yourself if you could go back those 3 years? I know you kind of touched on it in the beginning, but some parting wisdom.
Wow. As first years, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. There's so much I would say to myself, but I'll focus on you guys because it's easier. One, like I said before, try everything, explore everything that you can, anything you have a vague interest in. If your friend is going to a thing and you're like, I don't know that I'd be into that, go. Please go. Because you're not going to have time when third and fourth year comes around and you have 9 essays due on Monday. No, I'm kidding. Only if you procrastinate like me. Try everything. Have as much fun as you can. Try to establish that work-life balance early because that habit is going to help you so much more going forward. Um, I find it's really helpful to think about things in 3 month periods. So, like, where am I right now? Where do I want to be 3 months from now? I think that's really helpful for structuring the world you want to live in and the kind of the life you want to live. And go to office hours, even if it's just to say, "Hey, what's up?" You don't necessarily have to have a question in class. I know that it can be kind of intimidating, especially in a class like microeconomic, where there's 200 people in the class, and it's like, I don't. This professor's not going to remember me. Go to office hours. It's going to help you a lot in the long run. It's going to help you a lot with setting up the future that you want, and those professors can give you pointers on what you want to do, where you want to be, things like that. I feel like my current career trajectory was largely informed by the relationships that I had with my professors, talking about other students that they've seen that they thought were had similar backgrounds to me, had similar interests, things like that. So yeah, broadly, do everything you can while you have the time to. And I think you're going to find the people, the groups, the organizations, the Batten School that is going to make you really enjoy your time at UVA.
Great plug, Wyatt. And somebody else did ask about, as a first year, being able to attend a Batten lecture. We actually offer something at Batten called the Batten Showcase, which is formatted kind of similarly, where you're having a ton of Batten professors and just guest lecturers kind of come in and give you a taste of Batten. So that would be a really great place to do that. And if you scan that QR code, we'll also send out information about that in our newsletter as well. So just to kind of end things off before I hand it back over to Haley, the bottom line really is, if you want to be at Batten, you can build those hard and soft skills so you can create change in the world. We really want to help you with that goal. So please don't hesitate to contact us, and hopefully we'll see you either later this summer or this fall. Haley, back over to you.
Thank you so much, Estrella, and thank you so much, Wyatt and Dan Carter, who was in answering questions. This has been wonderful, and we are so grateful to the Batten School for supporting our Wednesday webinars. One more plug for the Batten School. They really are wonderful, and like they said, please feel free to reach out to them. If you have any more general questions about orientation or anything new student related, please feel free to reach out to orientation@virginia.edu, and we can get you connected to the resources you need. But other than that, all I have left to say is have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and go Who's. Bye, y'all.